Hi, my name's Eric Kroll, and I'm the director of the Sobey School Business Development Center. I've been working here for 20 years, and during that time have worked with probably more than 1,000 businesses. My first business exposure was when I was in university. We set up a painting business, and during that time my friend and I made about 10 times minimum wage over the summer. I'm going to talk to you today about mitigating risks as you start up your business. In truth, that's really what most business programs are about. And so they spend 4 years talking about risk mitigation. I'm going to give you some of the highlights that I think are most valuable for your current situation. 2 statistics that I think are really worth remembering. The first one is 80% of businesses fail within 5 years of starting up. So there's a lot of risk associated with starting a business. The second statistic suggests that 80% of businesses who have a good plan to start succeed. So that really shows the impact of having a good plan. The next thing I'd like to talk to you about is perception of risk, because people perceive risks differently. Many people think that having a job and working for somebody else or working for a big company is less risky than starting your own. Others believe that being in control of your own destiny, living a life that has you following your own passions is, or the risk of not living your life following your own passions is more risky than working for somebody else. So it's a question of perception rather than risk. Most entrepreneurs do not seek risks. They look to mitigate. So I thought I'd talk to you a little bit about the various sources of risks. Basically, risk is all around us. Every decision we make has some kind of outcome or consequence. As you're planning, think about risks associated with decisions. They tend to fall into market risks. So what the customers want, will you really be able to sell your product? Operational risks, will you be able to deliver the quantity of products you need, or the service, the quality on time? There are risks associated with people, HR. So will people take advantage of your staff, take advantage of you? Will your staff, I know some companies whose staff have stolen both money but also their ideas and gone off and set up other businesses with their ideas to be competing. Financing risks, will I be able to get enough money to launch my business, and will banks want my money back, want their money back before we're ready to give it back to them. So with all these risks, many people will say, oh my God, why would anyone want to start a business? My belief is that these risks are inherent within every organization. And whether it's the biggest companies in the world still face marketing, financing, operational risks. If you use Future Shop as an example, people have been working for Future Shop for many years. Maybe some of them are hoping to retire from there, and they didn't see that in a whim over a weekend that the store could close and they'd be out of a job. So there are risks associated with every decision, and planning really helps give you the information you need to make better decisions. And so most decisions are based on what you know, but when you're making decisions you should also consider what you don't know, and what you don't know. So as you go through the planning process, it will help you feel confident that you have the key information that you need to make decisions. So the biggest risks we're going to talk about today are associated with the market, so market risks. And that really means, will anybody buy your product, or will you get enough people buying your product to make the business viable? The other element that I want to talk about is around financing. So how much money do you need? How much money are you going to make within your business, and what kinds of pricing cost structures do you need to have to make your business viable? So moving from concept to an idea is where an awful lot of people go wrong. It's much cheaper to get the idea right the first time, and there's a process that people follow to ensure that their concept is going to achieve all its full potential. And really that means talking to people early. So if you change your idea as you're early on, it's much cheaper and more effective than to change your idea down the road. For example, if I wanted to set up a store on Spring Garden Road and had to spend tens or even hundreds of thousands of dollars to do that, and then got in there and found out that customers really don't like my product, that will cost me an awful lot of money. But if I do some research in advance and talk to a lot of potential customers first about my product and have them see it and touch it and react to it, I'll have a much better sense of whether that store on Spring Garden Road will be viable. So the idea is talking up front is really important. The other interesting thing about planning is that planning is actually more important than the plan. Once you have your plan, it's basically a foundation, but your ideas are going to change dramatically over even the next 3 to 6 months. So having a process, doing the planning and getting the research and learning about your business and different models for running it is really the most important element of planning. So in this slide, I want to show you a process. And the process starts with what we call customer product fit. So making sure you really understand what your customers are looking for and that your product is perfectly designed to meet their needs. And again, this starts with first maybe talk to 10 or 20 customers on a very open-ended basis around what their issues are, kind of around your product, what some solutions might be, then get into talking a little bit about your product and how that might be better than other products that are out there, and what the potential is, and have them react to that. Always better to talk to people you don't know than people you do know, because people you do know often will want to protect you by not hurting your feelings. And really what you want is people to be brutally honest and tell you all the pitfalls and challenges associated with your idea. The next thing you should learn about your business and the planning focus is what's going on in the industry. I work with a business that they wanted to buy a business that sold fish tracking devices to fishing boats. And after a little bit of research, we found out that actually that industry was shrinking, that actually all the fish had been fished out, and most of those devices had been sold, already sold to customers within the province. So a little bit of that industry research can help you identify challenges or red flags or things to really think about. The other part about planning is you really want to have an understanding of how your product relates to your product costs relate to price. So what's your business model? On every unit cost, are you going to make $100? So if your cost was $50, are you going to sell it for $100? And then how many products do you have to sell to either cover fixed costs or pay your salary, or have a viable business? So from a break-even, one of the most important things you can do is understand your break even. So what level of sales do you need to have to cover your fixed costs? And that very much depends, again, on how you price your product against your costs. So there are two types of costs. One's fixed costs, which will not change depending on how many products you make. So if you consider yourself as a salary, you're going to pay yourself a salary, and that's not going to change whether you make 10 units or 1,000 units. That would be called a fixed cost. On the other hand, if each unit requires $10 of material, then if you produce 1 unit you need $10. If you produce 10 units you need $100. So those are the two kinds of costs that we need to think about. And most entrepreneurs, once they understand that model of thinking, every opportunity they see, in their minds they look at, I know I could make that product for $100 and I bet I could produce it for $30. And therefore I only need to sell 1,000 of those products in order to cover all of my either upfront costs or fixed costs. So I think this would be a good idea, a good business to be in. And so automatically, that's a fundamental way of thinking that most entrepreneurs have. The following graph, or the graph that's attached, shows where fixed costs are, and for the first number of units produced, you're working really hard just to not lose money. So while you're under the total cost line, you're working hard just to break even or not lose money. And oftentimes people or businesses just hover around this break even point, and they don't realize that by increasing sales just by an extra 20% can add double their profits or triple their profits. And often that's because they don't understand this break even concept. So the simple graph helps you understand that you may be working really hard to make 100 units and make no profit, but if you make 110 or 120 units, that's when you get all the reward for your efforts. And so don't be discouraged in the early stages. The second thing I want to talk to you, and this slide is really meant to highlight the impact of pricing decisions. And often people are really tempted to discount a price. So I've highlighted the top 3 rows, talk about the unit price, the unit cost, and the profit per unit. We call that gross margin. And in the first column, regular price, we're selling a product for $10, its unit cost is $6, and we've got a profit of $4 per unit. And so assume we sell 100 units, we're going to have total sales of $1,000. Our cost of sales will be $600 and our profit will be $400. Now suppose we think, well, if we just discounted our price by 20%, so instead of selling for $10, we're going to sell for $8. Look at what happens to the bottom line. So in this scenario, we're only making $2 profit per unit, which is half what we were making before. So although we've reduced our price by 20%, we've reduced our profit on each unit by 50%. So big impact. And so in this scenario, when we sell 100 units, we end up only making $200. Now, if we want to see how many units we need to sell at a discounted price, it turns out that we need to sell 200 units instead of 100 units to make the same kind of profit we would have on a regular price. So where many companies get in difficulty is they think to themselves, I'm not selling enough, all I need to do is discount my price. But really, relatively small discounts mean that they need to sell double the units just to make the money that they were hoping to make before. So discounting is a risk. On the other hand, if you're not selling anything at all and you're looking at being left with all your inventory, that's another kind of risk that you need to consider. So in conclusion, key ways of reducing risks. First and foremost, make sure you have a plan and do some research around it. Within that plan, you should incorporate what you've heard by talking to customers, and you should plan to talk to between 20 and 50 potential customers before you go forward. Within the plan, you should have a bit of a break-even analysis done, and you should have a mentor. And the mentor doesn't have to be someone with 50 years of experience. It could be a business student who's seen some of these concepts. Could be anybody who works in an organization who understands some business context, but I think they can help you talk through some issues, particularly around hiring and working with staff. And the other word of advice is to do a lot of testing. So test your product idea by talking to people. In a way, you may be testing your business concept over the summer. And one way of validating your business idea is using this summertime or university period as a test. So after you've run this on a part-time basis while you're a student, it may give you the proof you need to go off and run it on a full-time scaled-up venture. So in conclusion, I'd like to leave you with the thought that there will never be another time in your life that is better to start a business. The worst case scenario is the business fails. And even if it does fail, you will have learned so much and be so valuable to so many other employers that you'll be able to launch either a new career with working for somebody else or developing a new business idea because you will have learned about the process of starting and setting up a business. Thanks so much for listening, and good luck on your future business ventures.